All right. My guest today is Braden Boyd, who, I discovered him when I first went on to TikTok and punched in comics and comic maker. So he somehow managed to crack the algorithm. And then when I started looking through his stuff, you can hear him laughing. He has this comic called Shape Man. It's an idea that he came up with when he was a kid. He's still young. I mean, he's young enough to be like my son, you know. But he's had great success on TikTok, and he started his own business and now his own company. Brayden Boyd, maker of Shape Man, TikTok comic star. How are you, sir?
Hello. Doing well, doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little under the weather, so my
Mm.
voice is kind of raspy. I'm going to keep on drinking water. That's what I'm going
Yeah,
to do.
I got a
Mhm.
water cup too, so we'll drink water together. Stay hydrated.
Fantastic. So I've been looking forward to interviewing you for quite some time, and I've been chasing you around on social media, and you've been kind enough to answer my DMs. Thank you very much. I
Of
appreciate that.
course. Yeah, I've been looking for podcasts to go on, so this seems like a good one. Yeah,
I
I'm
got a
excited.
host of them. I can hook you up, no problem.
Perfect. Yeah.
First of all, I guess where are you from? How old are you? And how did this whole thing start?
Yeah. So I'm from Norman, Oklahoma. Right next, it's pretty close to OKC. So I go there a lot for Comic Cons and hanging out with my bookstore buddies and stuff. Shout out Literati Press. But yeah, I'm from Norman. I go to University of Oklahoma. I am majoring in graphic design there. I'm currently, I think a sophomore standing. Uh,
Man, you're a sophomore and you're off and running with this business.
yeah, it's very exciting, and I'm I have high hopes for it. I'm not sure, how far we can make it with Shape Comics, but I'm really excited about it, and I want to create awesome things and like build an audience that enjoys the awesome things that we create. And I want to help other creators, do the same kind of things. It's really a fun thing to be able to do.
Yeah, I love indie creators. To me, comic book art is like it's supposed to be low art and kitsch, which is why for a very long time, all through my high school years and into college and university, I turned away from it, even though it's where I started, because I was like, I want to do something that gets into galleries and is legitimate art, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just like, nothing ever hit, right? I was in for years. I was in galleries and doing shows and selling my work online on eBay and stuff. And then my brother came around to me at a show one time and he says, there's always something sci-fi about your work. Doesn't You can't really get away from this sci-fi. And I'm like, why am I even trying? Like, why
Yeah.
would I want to get away from this in the first place? So I went back to comic books, and so here I am, and I'm having a great time. It's the
Yeah.
best.
They have been, the whole industry's kind of been declining, but like I feel like recently with all this new Marvel stuff and, all these comic books being turned into film and things like that, I feel like people have a lot more respect for comic books than they used to have. They used to, I think, be a lot more like low culture, or like the art style wasn't treated with the same respect, like you said, of like, a Van Gogh painting or anything like that. And it still isn't, but like
Like, why isn't it? Is it because of the writing? Is it because of the format? Is it because of the target audience? What do you think?
maybe it's the target audience, maybe that it's targeted more towards kids. I'm not sure. Kind of like how like an animated movie, like a Disney movie or a Pixar movie is considered more um, for children, but adults can enjoy it too, kind of thing. I'm not
I wonder
sure.
if that means that as long as you're like cracking jokes and making people laugh, you're lowbrow. But once you get serious and depressing, and metaphysical, now you're
Yeah,
doing real art. Is that what it is?
I don't want that to be the case, but I feel like in in society it kind of is like that higher class prestigious stuff is seen as more arty than comic book stuff, and I totally disagree. I mean, it's my favorite style of art. That's why I like wanted to pursue it so much, like the old school style of like Jack Kirby and John Buscema and all those other old artists. I just love the style. It really speaks to me and gives me a good nostalgic feel, so that's why I seeked it out because I enjoyed it. It's weird that that's the case, that we view, like, the depressing stuff and, like, the heavier,
yeah, if you look at what wins awards, what people seem to respect, what the critics like, let's say. So like the critics tend to like things that have ideas that appeal to their sensibilities, whatever they happen to be, whether
Mhm.
they're political or I don't want to say depressing because I understand that
Yeah.
there's more to it than that, right?
Yeah, it's not necessarily depressing, it's like, it the ones that deal with heavier topics and aren't necessarily, like, more lighthearted. I just rewatched Joker last night, and that's an example of one of those, like, heavier Oscar baiter kind of depressing ones. It's hard to put it into words, but I know the type of, like, art that is typically regarded as higher quality. I'd argue that, like, even Watchmen is interesting because Watchmen, I feel like, falls into both categories because it is the art in Watchmen is amazing, but it's still comic book art and it's still a comic book, but it's got the feel of a movie directed by some famous director that wins an Oscar, you know? It's got that thematic, big, that emotional impact kind of thing.
I agree. I agree 100%. It's all about choice, right? Like so if you're going to make a movie and the movie is going to be based on Batman, right?
Right.
Um and you have this budget that you can work with and producers are going to be thinking, okay, what sells? Who's the target market? And then the artist, once you get on like a good director, like say Christopher Nolan, who did the first Batman,
Yeah.
he's going to think, I don't want to do I don't want to do, 60s Batman zap pow,
Yeah, the
He's like,
goofy, yeah,
I want to make it serious, right? I want to tell a real story that deals with the human
yeah,
condition and so he's going to bring on writers that'll have that. And then so what they're trying to do is hit onto something that's not insulting the intelligence of adults. Really
right,
what that is broadening the market. So you're not just saying to kids anymore.
yeah,
Guys my age are going to go and watch it because it's going to be awesome. Kids are going to watch it because it's Batman, you know and I think you win out overall when you start to, I don't know, go into good writing. Maybe that's what it is.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I do think that's what it is, you know, you're broadening your audience, painting Batman in a different light than what maybe have has been previously he's been depicted as. I also don't think necessarily it has to be a dark, gritty, heavy movie for it to still be good and, like, speak to the audience and have good themes and stuff. Because that's kind of something I'm trying to do with Shape Man is, the villains are, like, cracking jokes, and the guy they're robbing is cracking jokes back. I love the dark age of comics and the more grittier, action-packed movies that have followed. But with Shape Man, I'm trying to keep it lighter because I feel like you can still tell a great story and keep it from being, I guess you could emotionally draining, I guess you could say, but also it's like we said before, it's like that higher class of art that people kind of associate with heavier and darker themes. Um, but it doesn't have to be that way, I don't think.
I don't know if kids like being talked down to. I think they can sense it, you know.
Mm,
Like if your target market is younger, and I think maybe Shape Man is, I read it and I liked it, even for what it is. It's like actually I got a real kick out of it. It was amazing. I can't wait for issue 2, by the way.
thank
It's gonna
you.
be awesome. When is it coming out? Issue 2?
We're doing pre-orders right now for the rest of June. Um, yeah, and then at the end of June we'll shut it off and order copies.
Nice. Excellent. Okay. So yeah, I don't think like it talks down to people. I think what's coming through, if I'm reading you right, what comes through in your comic is your own sense of humor and everything is appealing, you know?
Yeah,
It's like it's bright, it's colorful. You also have hit on, like you were saying, that classic old feel. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that.
yeah,
Because it's the first thing that caught me is like you're using duotones and half tones and dotted like textures and colors instead of just flat modern look. You've
mhm.
specifically gone for this retro feel. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so, back when I, was first getting into digital art, I really was into retro styles. So I was playing around with those, trying to figure out, something that I was really interested in. So I did a lot of, like, graphic design and stuff based on old posters, like old, rock and roll, um, concert posters and things like that. I loved the grittier textures and the like distressed inks and things like that. And then eventually I stumbled upon this folder of old superheroes I had drawn. So that I had drawn in like middle school. So I was like, oh, this might be some cool TikTok content idea. Maybe I'll, redraw one of these. And since I'm in this kind of retro kick right now, I'll do it in a retro comic book style like Jack Kirby. Um, and that's what I did. And it's kind of just stuck ever since.
Did you ever? We were talking before the camera started rolling, pardon me, a little bit about Image Comics. You mentioned Image Comics.
Yes.
And the founder of that, Todd McFarlane, started off as a graphic designer and then moved on to do his own comics. And one of the things he talked about in all of his, like, because he did lots of talks, right? He went around, was that he was very open about the fact that he didn't think he was the best artist, which is arguable. I mean, he's a great artist, but he denigrated himself. He was like, I'm not the best. I'm not the best artist, and I never will be. And I just want. But he's like, I outwork everybody. That's what I do.
Mm.
And that's basically his thing. He wanted to start his own company, be his own boss, and at all times.
Yeah.
And I think he did that. Like when he goes to a Comic-Con, he doesn't go to the washroom. He like fasts, and he'll go 10, 14 hours, never leaving the table. He's there the whole time from start to finish. No rests, no
Oh,
breaks, no nothing. Just handshaking with everybody. When he's running the company, it's the same kind of thing. Like this work ethic from
wow.
hell. It's like, no wonder he's a massive, crazy, bazillionaire.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I don't think we need to
I
be
never knew
that
that.
hardcore to be successful, but it certainly helps.
Yeah, I definitely think now with like the age of social media, social media can kind of provide that, getting eyes on your work that maybe whenever Image was getting started that they didn't really have. But yeah, that's incredible. Like not using the bathroom for 14 hours. I can't fathom, That's that must
Freaks
have
me
taken
out.
some like real
Freaks me out.
grit, some mental toughness for that kind of stuff.
All right, let me. I have a lot of segments and fun stuff we can do. We don't need
Mhm.
to do any of it really, but I figure because I have it here, let's look at your clip,
Sure.
and then we'll talk a little bit more about Shape Man and
Mhm.
see where it goes from there.
The second issue of my comic book Shape Man is now available for pre-order. Let's talk about it. In case you don't already know, Shape Man is a character I made when I was in middle school, like 8 years ago, who I've been taking and turning into a fully fledged retro comic book superhero. Shape Man is the story of a little red alien shapeshifter who crash lands on Earth and struggles to find his identity in this new world he's landed in. In issue 2, Shape Man learns more about what it means to have the identity of a superhero. All the while, our main villain, Red Bandit, is planning to take down Shape Man. Since I've been dealing with a wrist injury, I got my good friend Anthony and my girlfriend Althea to help out with some art for this issue. Pre-orders are going on from now until the end of the month, so if you're interested, you can check out the link in our bio. We're accepting pre-orders for issue 1 as well as issue 2, so if you missed the first one, now's your chance to get it. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.
I love the kiss at the end.
Yeah, that was my favorite
I
part
love
too.
you, Shape Man.
I do love him.
That's a great example of like your TikTok presence. The videos that you do there, like they're fun and you have a lot of creativity, and you also like are very consistent in the way that it's always promotional,
Mhm.
right? You're always talking about the comic. People know exactly what you're doing, and I like that one in particular because you're talking about the content. You're very conscious about what you're doing, which is like a very mature thing. Like, a lot of young writers, they'll write what they like, what they're interested in, but they won't think anything about the content necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're writing without any kind of like self-awareness of what they're doing.
They have a cool character idea in mind and maybe a cool story or some cool, like, parts of a story, but it's not fully formulated, and they're not entirely sure where they're
Yeah,
heading
they're
with it.
like, I know that Batman wants to fight Bane, and
Yeah.
he Bane will hurt him really bad, and then he'll beat Bane, and it's gonna be awesome, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
well,
that's
that's
cool.
good, but there needs to be more to it, you
That's
know?
always a good scene, but, like, what led up to that point? Why what has Bane done this time? What's the driving force for Batman to, like, be going up against Bane in this manner? And, vice versa with Bane against Batman, there's a lot of different story elements to think about, and sure, a fight scene is awesome, especially if you, like, orchestrate it well, but what really puts the oomph into a fight scene is, like, what led up to it. Say it's like, Wolverine and he's, like, seeking revenge for something, that's gonna have a lot more, oomph to it than if we just, open up into a fight scene and don't really know these characters very well, and they're just kinda, like, beating each other up. You gotta let us know who the characters are and why they're fighting or what their motivation is. Hazel is no, like, necessarily, like, a supporting character, I'd say. She probably falls into that category more than main character, but she definitely plays a huge role in, like forming Shape Man is, because the whole story is about Shape Man finding his identity in the world as a creature who can shapeshift and is an alien from outer space. You can imagine that, like, finding your identity is pretty difficult because you can literally be whatever you want to be when you can shapeshift. Um, and that's a big part of the Shape Man story. But Hazel plays such a huge role in like the formation of Shape Man's identity that you could even say like a piece of Hazel is a part of Shape Man because of the way like she's teaching him and guiding him as like a friend, and showing him all these different parts. In issue 2, I will say this, Hazel is the one that suggests to Shape Man, that he should be a superhero because, in the kerfuffle that Shape Man had with Toothpick and Gumboot at the gas station in issue 1, that gets on the news and they see it the next morning, and Hazel sees that and how they're talking about Shape Man as like a hero for warding these guys off, even though he didn't really mean to. But
The choices that you're making in terms of what you show and what you move forward, they're like the ones that have the strongest impact from what I see. Because when I read your story, like I look at it from a creator point of view where I'm trying to figure out what would I focus on if I was telling this story, you know? And I'm always amazed at the way other people approach a concept. Like you're not reinventing the wheel in terms of storyline. Like there's an alien that crashes on the planet, and then
yeah,
meets a human being, and then action ensues, an adventure, and there's a bad
yeah,
guy, and there's all this
it's
stuff. It's like those are tropes, right? But the way
yeah,
you're dealing with them is like it's distinctly modern for one thing, even though it's a classic looking comic. Like I think you're reaching, back into the 60s and 70s in terms of look, but I think it's still very contemporary. Am I right?
yeah, that's a huge thing that I'm going for is like I love the nostalgic look, but I feel like a lot of those old comics didn't have like the storytelling quality that, more recent things have had as far as like Watchmen and Invincible. I'm mostly talking about like when comics were first starting out, like the golden age, I think.
Like the 50s, I think that's
Yeah,
what it was, or was it
yeah,
even earlier than that?
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, and then the stories like old Batman and Robin stuff where it was just kind of that gimmicky, goofy, oh, we're gonna go fight this clown with a I don't know. We're gonna go fight a clown. We're gonna
Purple
go fight a
suit.
penguin. Yeah. We're gonna go fight a guy who makes people cold and he's called Mr. Freeze, you know. Obviously Batman has developed a lot since then, but I want to take the style of those old stuff, but marry it with like a newer style of story or quality of story, I guess.
Your choices of like Hazel and her dad, they look like they're native, am I right?
They are, yes, they are Chickasaw, which is the tribe that I'm a part of. Since I'm from Oklahoma too, I wanted to throw in some native representation in there as well because that is something that means a lot to me personally. That's something I really love when artists incorporate themselves and the culture they're surrounded with and the environment that they're in into their comics. It's awesome the way they portray it because it's familiar to them and they know that culture, and I feel like it's always portrayed better in that way. So
I grew up in Toronto, just on the north of Lake Ontario here, and Toronto's name is a native name meaning meeting place, and it really is like what Toronto is. There's the whole world here. It's multicultural. I mean,
Mhm.
most cities are nowadays. Anywhere you go. What's Oklahoma like?
um I don't know what to compare it to. I mean, I live like right next to campus, the University of Oklahoma's campus, so it's real beautiful right around here, and like Norman is a town that's like kind of on the up and up. Um, we're getting like new facilities and new buildings coming up all over the place that really lift up the community. But um, Oklahoma, it's awesome. I've lived here my whole life, and all my friends are here, and it's a nice place. I don't know if I'll live here for the rest of my life. I would like to kind of get out and see the world, move other places maybe. Um, but I like it. I like Oklahoma. It's a good spot.
Come up to Toronto. We'll hook you
All
up.
right.
All right, I got a couple of segments here. Why don't we I'll run the intro for my totally not for real segment, and then we'll run some super chats. We can still keep on chatting as I
Sure.
run these super chats, because really what they're designed to be is little cues for conversation, but they're also entertaining. All right, let's do this. Totally not for real. This isn't for real, is it?
I
Good
love that.
times. Good
That's
times.
good.
Bernie Bumhole says, I have a hot sauce for you made with actual flames. I have a friend who makes hot sauces. He makes his own. He's like growing his own peppers.
That's how my uncle is. He's a big hot sauce guy. He's the type of guy that'll just like bring you a spoonful of it and be like, "Here, try this." And I'll be like, "No, I don't want my stomach to implode." And he's like, "You should try it." And I'm like, "Fine." And then my stomach implodes. So that's my take on hot sauce.
Gross. Promo Sapien says, did you hear about the Ore office? Their business was full of crap.
The Or Office.
Full
Oh,
of-
I get it. Oh no, that's I get it now. Damn, I walked into that one.
Dad jokes. That was
Dad
my own
jokes.
dad joke, by the way. I didn't rip that one. I made that one up myself.
Oh, right on.
Proud. Very proud. I see Squirrels says, hi. I mean, hello. Yo. Hey there. What's poppin'? Sup, bruh?
Hello.
I think I see Squirrels has some insecurities or something.
I think they do. Sounds about right.
Friday McGold guy says, I used to be a comic artist like you. Then I took a pencil to the tush.
Ooh, that's how a lot of us go. It's an unfortunate thing in the comic artist world. Uh, a perfectly fine comic artist will just take a pencil to the tush and then their career is over. It's happened to several buddies of mine.
I heard he walks around Whiterun in Skyrim. He's a very sad soldier.
Very sad.
Samwise Sandwich. The plains of Rohan call to my spirit, and I answer with a Pepsi belch, which is pretty normal.
It was pretty normal.
I don't know if I want to go to the plains of Rohan. That's a lot of horse riding.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that is.
No?
What are the plains of Rohan?
Oh, the Lord of the Rings movies?
Oh, yes.
Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Sugar Pukey says Lucky Charms is my favorite meal.
Meal.
There you go. I mean, it could be, but yeah,
guess
I'd
so.
be pretty puking too. It's a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Would make for a rough day. Oh, look,
Mm.
it's Icy Squirrels is back.
Hello,
She says,
Icy Squirrels.
like, what's up with you? How's it going and stuff?
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah,
Just doing a podcast.
that's good. She's nice. I'm sure she's very friendly.
Oh, yes.
Androgenous says quantum potatoes taste like chicken.
I can't say I've ever had quantum potatoes.
Are those potatoes made in the Hadron Collider?
The whole quantum thing is that like an object could appear and reappear in different locations at different times.
Potato here, potato gone.
Yeah, so you could
Gross.
eat it, and then it could like disappear from your stomach and like appear back on your plate.
That's really gross. Would it be
Yeah,
chewed?
I don't think I'd want to eat quantum potatoes.
Doomer Boomer says politics is like art, but more important, you sniveling miscreants.
That is a very doomer boomer thing to say.
Always a hit at parties. Artie McFly says, when this baby hits 88 miles an hour, you're going to inadvertently create Rick and Morty in every time travel movie forever and ever.
Back to the Future did it first, didn't they?
I think so.
I think time travel was kind of a fad that is maybe like kind of going out of style. But I think the new thing is going to be like, since Marvel has like cracked open the multiverse in the MCU, that's going to be kind of a big theme taking the place of like time travel, is like characters from other dimensions coming together, big meetup movies. Like, you got your three Spider-Man meeting up in a movie and hanging out. There's this new like Smash Bros type game, Multiverses, where all of the Warner Brothers properties are like coming together. Iron Giant is fighting Batman, is fighting Shaggy from Scooby Doo and stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Back in the 80s, they had a series in Marvel called What If? What if, Hitler won World War II? And they had all these great ideas. And there were a couple of them that were real bangers, like really good stuff. The multiverse is like this way to just do what if forever
yeah,
and make it scientifically legitimate.
yeah. It's such a cheap thrill, kinda.
No, I think so. I would agree. Like there's an
doesn't
element to it where it's like if you're going to be a lazy writer, you can be lazy, and people are going to call you out on it, but you can
yeah,
do it. But
yeah,
I think it also opens up like because the whole idea of the multiverse and science in that way is absolutely cutting edge. I heard on a podcast just the other day that the space-time continuum is not fundamental, and he says that there's these underlying geometric shapes in the equations that aren't accounted for even in Einstein's theories. He says space and time aren't actually real. I mean, those are things I would say when I was high, when I was a kid. It's like
yeah.
time is an illusion, man.
Whoa,
It's like
aliens, bro. Yeah.
aliens.
Like the whole multiverse concept is awesome, but I do worry that it's going to get like played out pretty quickly. Like crossovers are always going to be awesome, but it if it doesn't have like a strong story behind it, it can also be pretty like cheap thrill, I guess you could say. Like,
Cheap knockoffs are nothing new to Hollywood. They've been doing it
yeah,
forever. Even in the worst 80s B flicks, there's still something I love. When Predator came out, it was a B flick. It was like, yeah, cool, Predator. Now
yeah.
it's like I've watched Predator like hundreds and hundreds of times. I never get bored of it. Every time I watch it, I like it even more.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen Predator.
What?
Yeah, I feel
You're a
like
kid. It's okay. You're I mean, sorry, I don't mean to be
no,
that's
you're
rude.
good.
That's rude. You're not a kid.
I'll get to it eventually. I feel like I create more stuff than I like consume because I'm a guy who does retro art. I should be watching retro stuff and
I couldn't
reading retro
disagree
stuff.
more. The whole idea of like, especially when you're a creator, of making more than you take in, I think that's key. What you're doing, you got the solid work ethic. It's good.
Thank you. There's one artist who said something really profound, but it was like, create more than you scroll. Scrolling and consuming media and watching movies and reading comics, all that's great for like, coming up with ideas, but to like make those ideas come to life, you got to like put the work part in, and you got to actually do it and sit down and write and draw, and that doesn't come from just like watching a movie to gain inspiration.
I think we're hitting on something here. I'd like to dig into this a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, what does it take to make your own comic and promote it the way you have, and then fulfill all these sales?
Yeah, it was a long process. I think I posted a video talking about Shape Man for the first time on TikTok, maybe back in like November of 2020, and that was really popular, and that video kind of like set off this whole thing because it was like people were really interested in the character and like, "Oh, you should this is really cool, and I love the style. You should, like, try and make a full comic book," which is something I'd never even thought of before, let alone tried to attempt. And making a comic book, especially for the first time, is no easy task. I'm a full-time student, so I was doing that while creating this comic book in my free time. So it was a lot of like finding the time in my day to just, even if it was just like a little bit of work a day, just putting that in, you're eventually going to reach the end and you'll have a full comic book. I think it was a full year that it took me to do just because I wanted to get it right, so I practiced drawing a bunch. I filled sketchbooks with sketches of, like, practicing, and then I used reference for, like, everything just to make sure I got the anatomy and the perspective and all that stuff right because I didn't know what I was doing. I wrote all 3 issues, or at least, like, outlined them before I started the first one to make sure that the story was consistent and I knew where each detail in the story was heading towards and what the final payoff was gonna be for everything. It was a long process. In hindsight, I'm really glad that I took a year to do it because I feel like I did it right. The whole time I was, like, posting progress shots on TikTok, like, "Oh, here's like the stage I am in the process. Here's a sketch I made," just kind of generating hype across this entire year. And then in November, when I opened up pre-orders for it, I just made a whole bunch of videos and like boom, I was posting like daily TikTok videos, all different kinds of ideas. I was using popular sounds. I was talking about the characters. I was reading and like doing the voices for the characters for different scenes in the comic books. And then at the end of the month, we had over 900 pre-orders, and it was incredible because all that time and effort I had poured into this thing in my free time, like finally was paying off. And it was so much work to like order and ship all those comic books, but the whole time I had my family and friends over and my girlfriend Thea over. She helped a lot with the packing. That part I couldn't do alone because it's like you're packing 1,000 orders. Like, what are you gonna do? You gotta have some backup with that. We were like there. We were putting together the cardboard and the comic protectors, and we were sliding the stickers in, and I was signing copies, and like boom, boom, boom. We had a whole operation set up in the garage, and that was like probably the most fun part of the entire process because I finally felt like I had done it. Like it's been a year. I've been working on this thing in my free time. It's finally done. I'm really proud of the work I did. I feel like the story is great. The art I thought was good. I thought it was good enough. Like obviously it was no Jack Kirby, it was no Dave Gibbons. It was my first comic book and I had done it. Like I had finally finished it. And that moment of just packing the orders with my friends and family, it was like the perfect moment.
How much did you have to sacrifice? How hard was it?
It was draining at times, but my whole thing to myself was that I was not gonna let it get to the point to where it, like, bummed me out so much having to do it that I stopped doing it altogether. Like, if I had been drawing for, 3 hours that day and I had hit, like, a panel that was really tough, maybe the perspective's really tricky on that one, I would just step away, go take a shower, go have a snack or something, watch an episode of whatever, and then come back to it with like a fresh mind. I'm really glad I did that because it made the process because as a new it was never something I had done before. I had never like done this kind of art before where you need to have good perspective and style and anatomy and all this stuff. So in order to keep myself sane, I did it in chunks like that, and I wouldn't let myself get too frustrated. And then that in turn made the process a lot more enjoyable and even fun because I would just turn music. I had a record player in my dorm room, and I would either put on a record or like connect my Bluetooth to it and just listen to whatever music, whatever band I was into at the time, and just kind of it was kinda relaxing sometimes, because I would come home from school and I would turn some music on, have a Sonic drink or something, and then just draw a little bit. And if I would get frustrated, I would stop and come back to it later. And that's how I got it done.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
just kind of a vibe.
Yeah, and you did it. Man, it's really inspiring to me just to hear you talk about it, because I've been drawing my own comic book and like writing it for the past 2 years,
Mhm.
slowly but surely. I did 6 pages, full colored, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Period. Out of all the fine art painting and everything I did through university, it was like just soul crushingly difficult to learn everything and then to do it. Like there was like this massive learning curve. Like, how do you do Clip Studio Paint? How do you do Photoshop? How do you do, perspective and everything? Like
Yeah.
you mentioned perspective several times. How difficult was it to learn something like perspective and drawing skills?
I kind of I did a lot of it on the fly. Like before I actually started the comic, I did do some kind of some, I would uh I had like a digital copy of Stan Lee and uh is it Steve Buscema, I think is his name, or John Buscema, one of the Buscemas. Uh but they have a book called How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Um and that was kind of like my art bible for a little bit. I would just like it really helped me develop my style. That was the big one, and then I would kinda fill in the gaps with, like, YouTube tutorials and things I would find online, and I never paid for anything either. Like, everything I looked at was free material online. Um, and then once I feel like I kind of had, like, a base knowledge of all those things, like anatomy and perspective kind of covered, that's when I started doing the comic book, and I used a bunch of reference. Like I would, my camera roll is probably like filled at this point with pictures of me posing in different ways. Like, if he's holding a coffee mug, I would take a picture of me sitting in my chair, my desk chair, holding a coffee mug, like on just a timer photo, and then I would bring that into Procreate and put it next to the panel, and I would just kind of like loosely sketch, kind of a figure drawing based on that picture. Uh, so that's really what kind of helped me out the most was just uh, reference.
Great.
Um, Looking at comic book art from the style I was doing, like Jack Kirby stuff, and just seeing how they did, like trying to decipher how they drew, like how their hand was moving whenever they did this mark or this style of inking or things like that.
You started a Discord. For a while there, I had the notifications on and the thing was just popping all the
Yeah,
time. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah.
The
The
Discord?
Discord is one of the most fun things I think I've ever done this far. It just The idea just occurred to me one day, and I was like, do I think people would really even come and hang out?" Did some research, made like a basic Discord. I had like a channel for each of my characters if people wanted to go give some ideas or drop some fan art in there. I made it and I started posting about it, and it just started filling up so fast. Like I think it was a few hundred in like the first few weeks. I It's been awesome because I've really just been able to connect on a deeper level with people who were liking and commenting on my TikTok or my Instagram. And now I'm actually getting to like talk to them and build friendship with them. I share ideas with them and they give their feedback, and it's really like creating an awesome culture at Shape Comics where people can come and like talk to the creators and give their input and feel heard about our stuff. So it's one of the greatest things I think I've done so far. There was one of my fans, his name is Carson, and he is incredible. He would like comment on all my Instagram posts, and he was like a super fan of Shape Man and Boyd Comics and Shape Comics and all this stuff. And I had heard that he was good at Discord, so I was like, "Hey, do you want to like help me out with this Discord?" And he was like, Yes, I would love to. And so he is now the manager of the Discord, and he's made it like really cool by adding all these cool features. But we just like we listen to our fans, and if they're like, "Hey, we should have a channel where other people can promote their projects that they're working on." So I was like, "Okay, boom, promo channel." It's just been really cool, and we do game nights, we do live events, and we're just building an awesome community of awesome people who just enjoy comic books and nerd stuff, and it's great.
So I started up my own Discord, but I haven't done anything with it yet. No promotion, nothing, just set up.
Mm.
But one thing I did do in addition to that was a metaverse store. So because
Ooh.
I just got like one of those VR things, the Quest 2, I think it's called, and and then we'll make a comic store in the metaverse in like a mall. So that's what I've done. And I've got this like bare bones comic book store, but it's going to be community based. So like basically
Yeah.
like a Discord where people can just go and hang out and then you do things. I'll invite you to it at some point.
Yeah.
I got to talk with Emma, who's helping me build it. She's this like sweetheart of a lady.
Yeah.
How would you describe community as someone who's like successfully established one?
I'd say there's like different layers maybe to how like a fan community kind of works. You've got your fans that are like your super fans. They're gonna pre-order every comic book that you put out. They're always active in your Discord. They're liking and commenting on all of your posts. And those are the guys that I've like gotten to know really well in the Discord. Those are like your top tier, like super fans. Under that, I'd say is like the people who know you really well. They like comment on your posts, follow you, maybe even join your Discord, but they don't necessarily like purchase every single thing that pops up, or like are super active either. They're just kind of like they know you and they're a fan of you and they think you're cool, but they haven't quite reached like, you know, that level of like someone who would actually buy something from you. Um, and then below that is someone who maybe just like they crossed paths with you like at a Comic Con, or a video of yours popped up on their For You page on TikTok and they were like, "Oh, that's cool," liked it, and then scrolled. And the whole thing about community is trying to get more people involved, get more people to like that super fan stage, make them feel like they're a part of it, make them feel like their voices are heard, and that they're like listen to their opinions. Like in my Discord, it was the super fans who designed one of the characters that I'm actually going to be making canon in the future. It's like a girl named Shape Woman. The name they came up with for was Abstract Girl because it's kind of like shape man, abstract girl, kind of that similar shape kind of
That's
theme with the
great.
name.
That's great.
We're gonna be turning that into a canon character, and it's gonna be a character who's the same species as Shape Man, but identifies as a woman instead, and has a different backstory. So that is what I want to turn more of my fans into, is those people who are in the Discord or on my Instagram, who really enjoy it, really like what we're doing, offering their ideas too, and even like getting their ideas made into a reality. Like right now, we're in the talks about making a trading card game, kind of like a Pokemon style thing where people could, collect cards with cool art and characters and stats and stuff on them, and like we're gonna try and design a game too where people can play with these cards. And right now in the Discord, that's those fans, those like fans that are really active. Those are the people who I'm talking to and like asking for ideas for this thing. Like, and they're even like creating art for it too. Like I could send you after this an example of like a card concept that someone came up with that's super cool. And yeah, it's just awesome. That's
Yes,
what a
please.
community should be. Is like that's what a community should be. Is like, not just people who know who you are, but you know who they are, and you're like you're getting to like actually communicate with your fan base and like, have a conversation with them and because they're more than just like a number or a like or a comment on a post. They're like an actual person, and if you treat them like an actual person, then it makes this whole community thing so much more of an impactful thing, is what I've found.
To build a community, to get to the point that you've gotten to, it doesn't happen just by work, and it doesn't happen by luck. It doesn't happen by a gimmick. Um, there's maybe a couple of things that have really worked for you. Maybe you're just lucky, but I don't think so. I mean, just from looking at you, I can kind of get the sense of why you're successful. You're of the generation where like it's hot, like you're everything's working for you. You're young, in your 20s,
Mhm.
not even. You're a good-looking guy, very likable.
Thank you.
The look in your eye is like, I can't talk crap with this guy. Right away, people can read that and they're like, oh, this guy's no pushover. Does that make sense?
I think so. That's
Yeah,
I can't say that I've ever been talked about in that way, and it's I take it as a compliment. I don't know if you meant it as a
it is.
compliment, but
It's very much a
yeah,
compliment.
that's
Very much. Yeah.
I that that really hits. Like, I really appreciate you saying that.
What's got you to this point? What's the key to your success?
So, it sucks, but above all else, you need to be a content creator before you're a, like, artist, I would say, because you can create awesome art and it could be a masterpiece, but if nobody sees it, then it's not as likely to be successful. Like, there's other avenues you can go through, obviously, other than social media for promoting or getting eyes on your work. But social media is just such a powerful tool for this kind of stuff because you could reach like who knows how many people through content creation. And I think obviously we all want to be comic book artists or musicians or whatever it is before we're content creators. But content creation is just so important to this whole thing that I have kind of learned to really value it. If you can nail that, then everything else just kind of falls into place. You know, you'll post a video and it'll be like, "Hey, I'm redrawing this character I made when I was a kid." It'll get a lot of attention. People will, ask for requests or say what you should do next. I get a lot of questions about like, where do I get my comic book textures? How do I draw this specific thing? Or do you have any information on how to draw hands or heads or anything like this? So, I'll take a comment like that and I'll make a video out of it. And there's my next video. And then um, that video will have a comment on it. So I may just kind of roll with those or uh, yeah, but I got like, if you got some time, I can give some like content creation stuff that I've learned. I think.
Oh my gosh. Yes, please do.
Okay. What I've kind of learned on TikTok is that a variety of things work well. I like to look for popular sounds first of all and see the trends associated with them. If I think it would work well for like a video of me making art or a video of something about Shape Man, or I'll use an audio like that. And those are usually like I can make quicker videos, easier to make because it's just me like making a little joke or just showing some art or something to an audio. Those seem to do well, every now and then there's also your videos that are your original audio. Maybe it's me explaining a tutorial, or maybe it's me pointing out like an Easter egg in a comic book and why it's my favorite, or maybe it's me talking about another comic book and why I like its style and how I think what we should like take away from it. Like what we're doing right now, we're just talking about like what's on our minds, answering people's questions. You got your popular audios that you can like hop on a trend, make a joke with. You've got your original audios, which is just you talking, making a tutorial, doing some art and talking about it, things like that. You also want to find like a niche or niche. Oftentimes, accounts with that kind of consistent theme going on seem to draw people in more. I know oftentimes we don't want to be like boxed into one thing, but if it really does help with making content because if people know you as the comic book guy, that's what people know me for. So I'll keep doing that. Yeah, my whole point there is that you want to find your niche and you want to kind of you can venture out of it a little bit, but definitely when you're starting out, you want to kind of stay in it because that's what people are going to recognize you for. For me, it's making comic books. For you, I think it's going to be something similar. Is comic book creation. So if your videos all kind of pertain to like different elements of comic book creation, going to Comic Cons, check out this comic book I made. Here's how to make a comic book. Comic book characters I enjoy, comic book stories I think are really impactful. Then you're in the niche of comic books, and people follow you because you're the comic book guy. And then once you've kind of had it established, you can maybe venture out a little bit. Like eventually, I was talking to you earlier about these trading cards that I'm interested in making. I'd eventually like to kind of be like, I'm the comic book guy, but I also made this trading card game. Or I'm the comic book guy, but here's an animation that I'm working on with a friend of mine about Shape Man, a little short film or something. I'm the comic book guy, but here's a Shape Man action figure, or here's it could be a variety of things.
It's
But
not too far out of the niche.
yeah,
So it sounds like stay in your lane, in your niche, be very personable, and follow the trends. Basically,
yes,
is that a top line? Decent top line?
I'd say so. And I don't mean to like restrict anybody, obviously. That's just what I have noticed has worked for me and a lot of other creators, is kind of like being consistent with your content instead of like, today I'm going to make a cooking video. Today I'm going to work on my comic book. Today I'm going to make a video about me walking my dog, or I'm going to talk about my workout routine. If you kind of stay with one sort of topic and maintain that, I feel like people will start to know you as that guy, and be more
Beautiful.
drawn to you for that. So
Beautiful.
that's just my advice there. What I've learned a little
Wow.
bit.
All right. Well, Braden Boyd, you are quite the individual, quite the artist and entrepreneur.
Thank you.
And you could even say influencer, community builder.
Yeah.
Where can people reach out to you? We know you're on TikTok and Instagram. I'll put
Right.
the links in the description there, but just give yourself a bit of a pump there.
Yeah. At b.boyd.design on Instagram and TikTok. All my links are there. My like the Shape Comics website is linked there, as well as I think the Discord is on the website too. But yeah, if you go to my Instagram or TikTok and click on the website, you'll be able to find so much stuff there. We've got the pre-orders for Shape Man. We've got the Discord link, the Patreon link, which is pretty new still. And yeah, that's where you can
So
find me.
people with the pre-orders, you said the pre-orders are ending this month.
Yes.
And then when are you going into fulfillment on those?
As soon as like we hit July, so like at the very end of the month, we're gonna tally up all the orders and then send an order off to the printer. Probably like the first week of July, and then from there, once we get all our materials in, we will pack them up, ship them, and there you go.
Amazing. And that'll be issue number 1 will be in that print run as well as issue number 2. Did I get that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For those of you who have missed Shape Man number 1 the first time around, we have it back open. We're on Shape Man 2 right now. So
Amazing. Man, I really appreciate talking with you. It's absolutely fantastic. You're so inspiring.
thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Potato here, potato gone.
Yeah, so
Where
you could
else?
eat it, and then it could like disappear from your stomach and like appear back on your plate